What is the 10x rule about, and how can it help you succeed?
Yeah, well, it's a magnifier, right? So I read Grant Cardone's book. I remember reading that book a few years ago, the 10x rule. And he was really big on it. And I sort of attracted to it because I thought it has a good application as a filter for entrepreneurs and business owners and anyone who wants to achieve anything, really. So for me, the 10x rule is a magnifying glass. So let me lay out, I guess, how I see it. And if that resonates with you, you should think about using it because I think it's pretty powerful. If I was to take an example of, say, myself, right? All those years ago, back in the 1920s. Starting my first business. I'm going to start a business selling t-shirts to the market, right? I'm going to drop ship them. And my goal is to do $1 million worth of revenue in the first 12 months, right? Just as a number, roundabout sort of number. The 10x rule, as soon as you apply the filter to that principle of your business, the principle asks you one question, and it will say to you, why is it 1 million? Why is it not 10 million? So it's just a multiplier. So I pick a number, multiply it by 10, and what happens is, in terms of your decisions, how you see things, your lens on your business, the lens on your market, that has to change. And it has to change because the number is so much bigger than what you originally thought it should be. Because when someone picks a number for a business, like, how did you come up with that number? And most people do not research. Like when I started my business, I did no research. My very first business, I did absolutely no market research, right? Like, who would have thought that you could go to a company like Deloitte and say, hey, we pay you a fee and then you give me a market report on the last 3 years of this market. And then you make educated decisions off the back of that report. Now that's great, no harm, no foul. That should always be the way you should do it. But, if you're young and naive, like a lot of young entrepreneurs are these days, you come up with a number and then what happens is you're handicapped at the start of your business because you really don't know that number that you selected is either true or false, achievable or not achievable. You have to be careful. But that said, the principle and the filter of the 10x rule, that if you applied it to the way that you think, your psychology, your business acumen, your business strategy, your business plan is, hey, I want to make $1 million selling t-shirts in the first 1 year. If I said to you, why is it not 10? And let's pretend that it is, everything that you do and the way that you think about your business has to change because you're going from 1 to 10. So how you apply yourself to marketing has to change, to sales has to change. The decisions have to be faster. You have to take more risks. You have to be more bold and you have to break down more walls. Because the 10x principle allows you to do that. The concept of it is, in a roundabout sort of way, is commit first and figure it out later. Commit first and figure it out later. Now my own thing is, and I make this joke about engineers all the time, is what happens when you put 3 engineers in a room?
Nothing gets done.
Nothing. Because they're full of neurosis, right? They're very neurotic about getting things to 100%. Everything has to be perfect. The 10x rule will strip those principles away and then add a multiplier and a filter to that, so you see the business through a different lens. Now, it's the theory of achievement in an end-to-end context. If I said to you, I want to hit $100 million, and I was just laser focused on that, I might get to 75. But the guy, Tom, next to me who says, I want to hit $10 million, he's only going to get to 3. So the magnifying glass 10x's the principles of everything that you do, especially the way that you see your business. And it's not just about money, it's about the change in psychology. Like, man, how big do you have to think to go from 1 million to 10 million? Like, how big do you have to become inside yourself and the way that you think about decisions? Like, you have to be so much more powerful in your thought process. It's incredible, right? So big, successful people, like that's the difference I feel between a billionaire and a millionaire, is that billionaires take big risks and bet big and think big, and people who run a smaller company just don't. That's why I love that principle. So I think young entrepreneurs should apply it and read the book, The 10X Rule. I think it's a pretty good book.
How is the 10X approach different from regular goal setting?
It's the same question, right? It's like what I said before. When you set your goal at 1x to 10x, everything changes. The hours that you work will increase. The strategy that you write will be more detailed. The business plan that you write will be more thorough. The financial forecast that you put together will be more thoughtful and more researched. Everything changes because it has to. Because again, just think about it. 1 million to 10 million, completely different mindset. That's the whole principle of it, essentially. In its core fashion, that's exactly what it does.
Can you share an example of somebody who succeeded using the 10x rule?
Well, I have, right? Well, I could talk about that. I've had so many businesses over the years, most of them of which have failed, by the way. Let's say I think I've attempted over 20 businesses in my lifetime, right? And most of them have failed. As a young entrepreneur, you start all these little side hustles, right? When you're working your 9 to 5. And people who are watching this, most of them are doing that, right? Because you're not 100% sure. You don't go all in, right? Unless you've saved up, $100,000 to go all in, so you can still maintain your quality of life. You can do that. But most entrepreneurs will start with, hey, start with a friend, work 9 to 5, and then in the evenings, you're hustling, your side hustle. On the weekends, you're hustling. Early in the mornings, you're hustling, and that's where you build your business out, right? And you can continue to do that, and people probably should do that, but it'll get to the point where that won't work anymore, right? Where you have to make a decision to go all in. So I had multiple businesses, when I was in my 20s, where I never really started anything because I just didn't have the psychology or the foresight to understand principles like the 10X rule and some of the great business principles that I've learned over the years. And if I could have applied that when I'm in my 20s, oh man, I would have got there so much faster. And the 10X principle, if I knew that then, I probably would have gone all in, because what that principle teaches you is that you sort of have to, right? Like, I get that there are side hustles, and I think people should do that. It is a bit of a safety risk mitigation process. As part of that magnifier, that 10X magnifier, if you had $5,000 in the bank and you quit your job and your rent was $500 a week, right? You've now got a window. You've got to run so fast to the goal to be able to pay your bills and pay your rent, to put food on the table. You don't have a choice. That means you have to move forward, you can't go backwards, because the road to go backwards no longer exists. So the principle teaches you the commitment. Now, if I had known that in my 20s, I would have got to my first million, or first few million, a lot sooner than what I did. And I think it probably would have saved me about 10 years. So imagine if I could have got to 5 or 10 million in my 20s instead of waiting until my 30s. It would be a lot more now if I had understood simple principles like that. And that's really a psychological principle, the 10X rule.
What do people get wrong about the 10X rule?
Well, the thing they get wrong about it is they don't apply it. That's what they get wrong about it. Look, I think people don't understand it. Like they think 10X is just about, they really think it's a sales principle as well, right? Oh, make more calls and book more appointments and do all that sort of stuff. The 10X rule does apply to quantitatively just doing more, right? As an action and activity. By the way, startup's not based on years, it's based on revenue, right? But if you were to say 3 years in startup, normally when you start to get out of that startup phase into an emerging business phase, it's not just run, do more. What it is, it's about psychology. Like, the 10X rule is about psychology. It's not about do 10 times more hours, right? Yeah, I think there's some really great and powerful things about that. I think you should do that when you're young, but you can't do it forever because you kill yourself, right? And health to build a successful company is really, really critical. We've learned that over the years. We didn't know that. I think business owners, really old business owners, Carnegies, Rockefellers, those sorts of guys, right? They didn't understand the principle of healthy mind, healthy body. And I think that's really critical now for young entrepreneurs. But the 10X principle really is about thinking. It's about psychology. It's about how you think about things, how you see things, how you decipher things, how you plan things, and how you analyze things, right? So you have to really, that's what I truly think it's about. It's about thinking bigger and applying the actions through psychology and execution.
How can someone start using the 10X rule in their daily life?
There's a whole range of places you can use it. Your personal life, if you're a sports person, a musician, an artist, right? You're a creative. If you roll it into psychology, you can apply it everywhere. Like if you go, but what if I said, how could you use the 10X principle in your relationship, right? If you wanted to build a very, very successful relationship, you could apply this theory to it. So if the psychology of the 10X principle and that filter and that lens is about the application of that principle in a relationship would be, for me, okay, so we have like simple principle. We have date night once a month or once every 2 weeks. Well, why is it only once every 2 weeks? Why is it only once a month? Why is it not 5 times or 10 times a month? Well, my wife does this and I do that, but why don't you do things together? See the application and how it gels together? Oh, we go on a holiday every year, but why is it just one? Why don't you go on 4 holidays a year? Of course, financially you have to have things in play and your economics have to be on point to be able to do that, but why not? And that thinking big principle is the 10X rule for me. It's like, well, how could we just do more and be better, right? And contribute more to your children, to your business, to your friends, to your family, to the community, to your charity, whatever that may look like, you know, who fucking knows? But the application can be applied anywhere. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a multiple of 10. It could be a multiple of 3. It's sort of the same thing, right? Don't tell Grant Cardone I said that because he'd punch me in the face. But you know, because he would go, well, why 3? That doesn't make any sense. But hey, 3's better than 1. You know what I mean? If you applied that to your personal relationship and you 3x'd everything in that relationship, you know, you had more date nights, you went on more holidays and vacations together, you spent more time together, you did more investments together, you know, you spent more hours together. Everything just sort of gets better, right? Yeah. That's how I would apply it. And it doesn't have to be 10. Write down what the goal is and then increase it. Okay, I want to go from 75 to 100. What if I said to you, why don't you go from 75 to 200? Why not? It's just a number, right? And the difference between 75 and 100 is not much. You'll go look for a job, you go and do all that sort of stuff, right? You'll update your resume. But if you had to get to 200, you have to completely change the way you see things. If you made it 200, you have to change everything in your application of how to get to 100. 200, completely different. 100, pretty easy, don't have to do much. It's pretty lazy. Do a few things, maybe apply for 5 more jobs every week instead of just, you know, doing the bare minimum. But at 200, you're going to have to go and learn some skills, probably do some accredited training, get some certifications on your resume. You're going to have to do some networking, right? See how everything changes? You're going to have to practice interviewing at a higher level. You're going to have to change the way you dress, go buy some fucking suits, right? And step your game up. It's that easy, man. And that's what that principle taught me. And it sort of changed my life, but a little bit too late. But, you know, the book wasn't written that long ago, but so I figured it out before the book was written, but it certainly was good to check back in on that principle, for sure. So today we've been talking about this book, The 10X Rule. You should go and read it. It's a book by Grant Cardone. Great book. I learned a lot from this book. I want to thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Look, if you got anything out of this and you enjoyed it and you want to see more, appreciate it if you would subscribe, please. That would be very grateful for that. And we look forward to speaking on the next episode. See ya.